A couple sat across from me last year. Smart people, both professionals, combined income well into 6 figures. The wife shows me their brokerage account. They'd been buying individual tech stocks for 14 months. Net gained, maybe 2%. Then I asked one question. What's the interest rate on your car loan? The room went quiet. 9.4%. They'd been paying nearly $4,000 a year in interest on that car. Money bleeding out of their financial life every month while they spent their evenings trying to outsmart the stock market. They weren't making bad investments, they were investing in the wrong order, and that single mistake over 25 years will cost them over $400,000. A surgeon doesn't start with whichever procedure seems interesting. There's a protocol, and the order is the difference between recovery and catastrophe. Your money works the same way. Here's the exact sequence, step by step. Step 1, the emergency reserve. Most people skip this step entirely, and it's why their investment plan eventually collapses. They open a brokerage account, start buying stocks or funds, and then 3 months later their transmission dies and suddenly they're selling those investments at a loss just to cover a repair bill. They didn't have an investing problem, they had a sequencing problem, and now they've locked in real losses on something that had nothing to do with the market. The first place your money goes, before any investment account, before any retirement plan, before anything, is into a cash reserve. This is not the exciting part. Nobody built wealth because of a savings account. But here's what I've observed over decades. The people who actually survive market downturns, who hold investments long enough for compounding to do its work, they all have one thing in common. Boring cash, sitting in a boring account, doing nothing glamorous. Without that buffer, you're not an investor. You're someone who puts money into markets and then gets forced to pull it out at the worst possible time over and over, wondering why investing doesn't work for me. Start with $2,000 in a simple savings account, then build toward 3 months of essential living costs. You're not trying to earn a return here, you're buying yourself the ability to think clearly when something goes wrong. That couple I mentioned, they had zero cash reserve, which meant when their refrigerator died, 6 months after they started investing, they had to sell stock at a loss to replace it. The market recovered 3 weeks later. Their shares didn't because they no longer owned them. The emergency fund isn't a luxury. It's what keeps your entire plan from unraveling the first time life gets expensive. Now, here's where most people assume the next move is to start investing. It's not, and the step that actually comes next is probably costing you more money right now than you realize. Now, step 2. Neutralize high interest debt. If you carry any balance, credit cards, personal loans, certain auto loans, charging you more than 7 or 8% annually, every dollar you invest before paying that off is a dollar working against you. And most people don't see it because they think making minimum payments while investing is the balanced approach. It's not balanced. It's mathematics working in reverse. Think about it this way. If you pay down a credit card charging you 21% interest, that's a guaranteed 21% return on your money. No risk, no volatility, no hoping the market cooperates. Just a clean, guaranteed return that no fund manager on earth can promise you. Meanwhile, the stock market's long-term average is somewhere around 8 to 10%. So when you invest while carrying high interest debt, you're essentially borrowing at 21% to invest at 8. That's not wealth building. That's a slow leak with a nice looking dashboard. The approach is straightforward. List every debt with its interest rate. Keep making minimum payments on all of them. Protecting your credit is non-negotiable. Then direct every spare dollar at the highest rate balance first. When that one's gone, roll that payment into the next. Each balance you eliminate frees up more cash each month, and that momentum builds. Remember our couple? Their car loan at 9.4% was costing them roughly $320 a month in interest alone. That's $320 that could have been compounding in their favor every month for the next 25 years. Run that math and you're looking at over $250,000 in lost future wealth, just from one car loan they didn't prioritize. That's the real price of getting the order wrong, not the interest payment itself, the decades of compound growth that interest payments displaced. Now, there is one exception to this rule. One thing that should happen even while you're paying off debt, because the return is so immediate and so certain that waiting costs you more than the debt itself. Here we go to step 3, capture your employer's match. Here's a question that will tell you whether you're leaving free money on the table right now. Does your employer offer to match your retirement contributions? And if so, are you contributing enough to capture the full match? Because roughly a third of eligible workers aren't. And what they're turning down isn't an investment return, it's a capital gift. If your employer matches dollar for dollar up to a certain percentage of your salary, that's a 100% immediate gain on the money you contribute. Even a 50 cent on the dollar match is a 50% instant return. There is nothing in the investment world that guarantees those numbers. Nothing. Your employer is essentially sliding cash across the table, and a third of people are saying, "No thanks, I'm good." Contribute whatever percentage gets you the full match, not a dollar more at this stage. Get the free money, then redirect every other dollar back to eliminating high interest debt. Once that debt is paid off, you'll return to this account and significantly increase your contributions. I once watched someone decline their employer match for 2 straight years because they couldn't afford it. They were putting $300 a month into a taxable brokerage account instead. Their employer would have matched 6% of their salary, about $270 a month in free money they never collected. Over those 2 years, they left nearly $6,500 on the table. That's not a rounding error. That's real money that was offered and refused because the order was wrong. At this point, if you've done steps 1 through 3, a cash reserve, high interest debt eliminated, and employer match captured, you've already separated yourself from the majority of people who are investing. Most people never get the foundation right, but the next 4 steps are where the gap between financially comfortable and genuinely wealthy starts to open up. And step 4 is where I see more money quietly wasted than almost anywhere else. Step 4, the individual retirement account. This is the step where I've seen the most money lost to fees. Not market losses, fees. Most people who are saving for retirement put everything into their workplace plan and completely ignore this account. That single mistake can cost 5 or 6 figures over a lifetime, and almost nobody realizes it's happening. Here's why. Your workplace retirement plan, your 401k or equivalent, is chosen by your employer, not by you. And the fund options in those plans often carry expense ratios that quietly drain your returns every year. We're talking about fees of 1 to 2% annually that you never see come out of your account because they're baked into the fund's performance. An individual retirement account, an IRA, gives you complete control over what you invest in. You can choose broad market index funds with expense ratios near zero. That fee difference might seem small in any given year, but compound it over 25 or 30 years and the gap is staggering. Someone I know maxed out their 401k for 3 straight years while completely ignoring the IRA option. The fund choices in their workplace plan were expensive, a limited menu, high fees. When we ran the numbers, those excess fees had silently cost them over $23,000 in lost growth. They were doing the right thing in the wrong account. Same money, same time period, dramatically different outcome, purely because of where the dollar sat. Now, inside the IRA, you need to choose between traditional and Roth. Traditional gives you a tax deduction today. You pay taxes when you withdraw in retirement. Roth gives you no deduction now, but everything, contributions, and all the growth comes out completely tax-free later. The general principle: if you're earlier in your career with modest income, Roth tends to make more sense because you're paying taxes at a lower rate now. If you're at peak earning years in a high bracket, the immediate deduction from a traditional contribution may be more valuable. And if you're genuinely unsure, which is honest, because nobody can predict future tax rates, splitting between both types gives you tax diversification. You're giving your future self options, and options have enormous value. Most people think the next move after the IRA is to go back and max out the 401k. That's actually wrong. There's a step in between that almost nobody talks about, and it's the single most tax efficient account in the entire financial system. It beats the IRA, it beats the 401k, and most people who have access to it are using it completely wrong. If you've actually been following steps 1 through 4, you're already ahead of roughly 80% of the population when it comes to how your money is structured. But here's where it gets genuinely interesting, because the next 3 steps are where the gap between comfortable and wealthy starts to compound. And this next step in particular is something most financial advisors won't even bring up because they don't make any money from it. It's the only account in the entire system that gives you a tax break 3 separate times. I have never seen anyone learn about this and not be angry that they didn't know sooner. Now, here we go to step 5, the health savings account. Most people skip right past this because they think of it as a medical spending account, not an investment account. That's exactly why it's so powerful, and exactly why you're probably leaving thousands of dollars in tax savings on the table every single year without knowing it. The health savings account is the only account in the entire financial system that gives you a tax benefit at every single stage. Your contributions reduce your taxable income. The money grows tax-free while invested, and withdrawals for qualified medical expenses are completely untaxed. Triple tax efficiency. No other account does this, not the IRA, not the 401k, nothing. Here's the part most people miss entirely. You're not supposed to use this as a spending account for your current doctor visits. If you can afford to pay routine medical expenses out of pocket, do that. Let the HSA money stay invested and compound for decades. Save every receipt. There's no deadline on reimbursement. You could pay for a prescription today and be reimbursed tax-free 20 years from now. A woman I know had been putting $200 a month into a taxable brokerage for 6 years. She had no idea her employer offered an HSA-eligible health plan. When someone finally explained what she'd been missing, she was genuinely angry. Not because the money was lost, but because she'd been paying taxes on investment gains that could have been completely tax-free. 6 years of unnecessary tax drag on money that had a better home waiting for it the entire time. Same dollars, same investments, wrong account. After 65, the HSA becomes even more flexible. You can withdraw for any purpose, not just medical. Non-medical withdrawals get taxed like regular income, making it function like a traditional retirement account. But given that the average retiring couple faces well over $300,000 in medical costs throughout retirement, having a dedicated pool of tax-free money for healthcare is one of the most powerful things you can build. That couple from the beginning, if they'd followed steps 1 through 5 instead of what they were doing, just the first 5 steps, they'd already be sitting on roughly $180,000 more than their current path. And we haven't even touched the last 2 steps yet. Now that the HSA is funded, you go back to the account most people started with too early, and this time you fund it properly. Step 6. Max out your workplace retirement plan. Here's the mistake I see at this stage. People who've been contributing just enough to get the employer match for years and never go back to increase it. They set it at 6% 5 years ago and forgot about it. Meanwhile, they have room to shelter tens of thousands of dollars per year from taxes, and they're leaving that capacity unused. With your IRA maxed and your HSA funded, now you go back to the 401k and push your contributions as high as you can manage. The annual limits are substantial, and between the IRA, HSA, and workplace plan combined, you can potentially shield a very significant portion of your income from current taxation every year. That's money compounding without the government taking a cut annually. Over decades, the difference between tax-sheltered growth and taxable growth is not a minor detail. It's the kind of gap that determines the decade you retire in. If you made it this far in the sequence, you're in a category most people never reach. And here's what nobody tells you about this stage. The payoff from this point forward accelerates dramatically because every dollar you shelter from taxes compounds faster than the dollars that came before it. I watched 2 people with nearly identical salaries retire 5 years apart. One had only ever contributed enough to get the employer match, about 6% of his income for 30 years. The other maxed out her workplace plan for the last 15 years of her career after following a sequence like this. The difference in their retirement accounts was over $600,000. Same employer, similar pay, one just filled the account to the brim while the other sipped from it. Let me put our couple back in the picture one more time. If they had followed this exact sequence from the beginning, reserve first, then the car loan, then the match, then the IRA, HSA, and maxed workplace plan, instead of skipping straight to a brokerage account to buy tech stocks, the difference after 25 years with the same total dollars invested is north of $400,000. Same income, same jobs, same money going out the door every month. The only variable that changed was the order. That number should sit with you because it represents the actual cost of enthusiasm without architecture. And most people are paying that cost right now without knowing it. Now, only after every tax advantage option is exhausted do you arrive at the step most people wanted to start with from the very beginning. Now, step 7, the taxable brokerage account. This is the account people are most excited about and the one that should come dead last. If you're investing in a taxable brokerage before you've maxed everything above, you are volunteering to pay taxes you don't owe yet. In a taxable account, every dividend gets taxed the year it's paid. Every time you sell at a gain, the government takes its cut. That ongoing friction reduces your effective return, and over long periods, it compounds into a significant amount of lost wealth. 2 identical portfolios with the same returns over 30 years will produce meaningfully different outcomes depending on whether the account was tax advantage or taxable. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. Same money, same performance, different result purely because of where it's sat. That said, once everything above is maxed, the taxable brokerage has genuine advantages. No contribution limits, no withdrawal restrictions, no age requirements. If you want to retire before traditional retirement age, this account gives you bridge income. If you're saving for a home or a business on a 10-year horizon, this is where that money lives. And when you die, assets here receive a step up in cost basis, meaning the capital gains you accumulated can potentially be eliminated entirely for your heirs. It's one of the most significant wealth transfer mechanisms in the tax code. Now, the question everyone asks is, what do I actually buy in these accounts? That's a separate conversation entirely, and I'm covering it in detail in my next video. For now, just know that the account structure, the order we just walked through, matters more than the specific investments. What we just covered is the hard part that most people get wrong. The only thing left is execution. And the way you execute this is by taking yourself out of the equation. Automate your savings transfers. Automate your retirement contributions. Automate your investments. When the money moves without your permission, without your emotions, without your interference, it moves every single month in good markets and bad ones, whether you're paying attention or not. That mechanical consistency over decades is what turns this sequence from a nice idea into actual wealth. That couple I told you about at the start, the ones picking tech stocks while their car loan bled them dry, I want you to understand what the order actually cost them in real numbers. If they had followed this exact sequence instead of what they were doing, the difference over 25 years wouldn't be just a few $1,000s. It's north of 400,000. Same income, same jobs, the same total dollars are leaving their bank account every time. The only thing that changed was the order in which those $400,000. Not because they chose the wrong stocks, not because they didn't earn enough, not because they weren't trying, because they did things out of sequence and the compounding math punished them for it every single year for a quarter century. The sequence is the strategy. Everything else is just details. And once you know the order, automate every single step. Set up the transfers, set up the contributions, remove yourself from the equation. Because the biggest risk to this plan isn't a market crash. It's the month you decide to skip because something else felt more urgent. Don't give yourself the option. If this changed how you think about where your next dollar should go, subscribe to this channel. The next video covers exactly what to buy inside each of these accounts. And I promise it's simpler than you've been led to believe.